What was so special about May 17th? Nothing special. It wasn't my wife's birthday, not our anniversary, nor even the first day we met. It was just an ordinary day, an ordinary Tuesday, and that's exactly why I chose it. My name is Keith, and after 12 years, my marriage to Lisa was starting to feel a bit stale, or better said, predictable. It's not that I didn't love her. She and the kids were the most important things in my life. However, that little spark that usually lit up in her eyes when I mentioned lovemaking had seemed to fade recently. So, being a hopeless romantic, I decided to give her an evening she would never forget. On Monday morning at work, I gathered the big guns, Katie, Cheryl, and Karen, 3 of the hottest single women at the office. All right, ladies, if you could write the script for the most romantic night of your life, what would it be? I asked them. Around midnight, they all started to fantasize about being in Paris, making love in a gondola in Venice, or admiring the sunset from a jacuzzi overlooking the Swiss Alps. Easy, girls, I told them. I'm thinking more about a romantic night at home or in one of the city center hotels, something that won't break my bank account. By noon, they returned with a list of ideas that now fell within my budget range. I thanked them, treated them to lunch, and got down to making plans. They seemed almost as excited as I was, jumping up and down, telling me not to mess it up because now they had a stake in how my evening would end. The first thing I did was take Wednesday afternoon off to have enough time to get everything done before her return. Usually, I would get home around 6, but Lisa was always home by 3:30 to greet the kids as they got off the school bus. On Tuesday evening, I told Lisa that my parents wanted to invite the kids for dinner and a show on Wednesday, so they probably wouldn't be back home until 8 in the evening. The kids were even more excited when I told them that I had a surprise for their mom and that they would indeed spend the night with Grandma and Grandpa. My parents always spoiled them terribly. I left work on Wednesday around 11:30 with my reliable list in hand. Let's see, kids at Mom's, free time. Then followed a trip to the store. Let's see, a sweet card, lots of good chocolate, and her favorite wine. The girls gave me a full list of everything that needed to be done, down to the lighting and music for the mood. The florist looked at me strangely when I asked her for 2 pounds of pink rose petals, that is, until I told her what I was going to do with them. You must really love your wife to go through all this trouble for her, she said when I left with a handful of red rose petals in my hand. Finally, I reserved a table for 8 at Lisa's favorite steakhouse. I thought we might need some food by 8, and if we decided to cancel dinner, I'd make sure we had steaks in the fridge to grill in the backyard. Finally, everything was coming together. I returned home, parked the car behind the house, and brought everything into the kitchen. Let's see, 2:30, that gives me an hour to get everything ready, I said to myself. Over the next hour, I froze the wine in the freezer, made a huge heart on the bed with rose petals, and using chocolate pieces, wrote, "I love you," in the center. I filled the garden tub with water and sprinkled the remaining rose petals on top of the bubbling water. On my side of the bed, I placed the wine in an ice bucket, and on her nightstand, I placed a card next to the reading lamp. I dimmed the overhead light, opened the wine bottle, and poured 2 glasses. I set up our portable CD player on the dresser and decided I'd turn it on after she entered the bedroom. The last thing I did was take a shower, shave, and undress completely. At exactly 3:25, I heard her car pull up. I was more than ready. I closed the bedroom door, stood at the edge of the bed naked, holding 2 glasses of wine, and waited for her to come upstairs. I heard muted laughter and something akin to a herd of horses ascending the stairs when they burst into the bedroom. "Yes," I said, "they. Lisa and her boss Rick. Do you know how long 4.75 seconds can feel like? It's like one huge gasp when your eyes meet hers, or 3 beats of a shattered heart, but enough time to kill the romantic mood and shatter a marriage." It took Lisa's brain 1.5 seconds to register that something had changed as she stormed into our bedroom. Her shirt was unbuttoned, and her bra was already off. Then her brain sent a signal to her vocal cords, which took about 2 seconds for her to say, "Oh my God." And finally, 1.25 seconds to realize she had been caught, so to speak. If it wasn't a world record for marriage destruction, it should have been at least 2nd place. Rick, seeing what was happening, turned around and ran to the front door. He disappeared in less than 45 seconds. Meanwhile, I watched as Lisa started crying and fell to her knees. I emptied the contents of both glasses onto the bed, went to the closet, and began to get dressed, all the while listening to Lisa tell me how sorry she was and how much she loved me. It took me about 5 minutes to get dressed and tell her that it was in her best interest to leave before I returned. I went downstairs, got into my car, and drove to the nearest place where I could have a drink. Now I'm sitting at Tony's, finishing my 4th pint of beer, wondering what my next move will be. At 6:30, I returned to my now quiet and empty home. The front door was unlocked, and Lisa's car was nowhere to be seen. After a quick visit downstairs, I headed to our bedroom. Everything was almost the same as when I left. The garden tub was running, the wine, card, and chocolate were there, untouched. Lisa's closet was open, as were several drawers of the dresser. I sat on the bed and tried to gather my thoughts when my cell phone rang. I turned it off without answering because I wasn't in the mood to talk to anyone right now. I know I need to replace the mattress in the guest room, I told myself, waking up the next morning. I showered, shaved, and headed to work, but on my way to my office, I felt more like a zombie. "Well, how did everything go?" all 3 girls shouted, bursting into my office. "Judging by the way you look, it must have been a hellish night," Karen giggled, nudging the elbows of the other 2. "Oh, it was," I replied, giving them a brief version of last night's events. "Damn," Katie said too loudly. "What are you going to do?" Cheryl asked. "Survive and take care of my kids," I muttered. "So, if you don't mind, please keep quiet about it." "I don't want to be the office joke," I told them. They left, telling me how sorry they were and that if I needed to talk to someone, they were always there. I thanked them and closed the office door. Bank accounts, credit cards, life insurance policies, 401k. All of them were closed or changed by 9:30 in the morning. Then I called my parents and told them that Lisa and I were having some problems, and asked if they could keep the kids until the weekend. They were upset to hear about it but were more than happy to watch the kids. Checking my cell phone, I found 20 messages from Lisa. I deleted them all. The lawyer gave me the name of a good attorney at a reasonable price, if possible, and I scheduled a meeting for Friday morning. You never truly know how badly you've messed up until you spend 2 hours with a divorce lawyer, until he lays out your options, or lack thereof. It was your word against hers. Lisa and Rick hadn't done anything yet when you caught them, and you can't kick her out of the house because it was her home too. You know what really pissed me off? The fact that she'll probably get custody of the kids, the house, and at least 40% of what I earned after taxes. I got screwed over without even a kiss goodbye. He suggested marriage counseling or at least a 90-day cooling-off period before I do anything. "Listen, Keith, no matter what you do, you'll be paying child support for the next 8 years at least, plus payments for the house. The only thing you can do is bide your time and try to minimize your losses. Look, if I were you, I'd move into the spare bedroom and make life as easy as possible for your kids," he suggested. I left early and moved all my stuff to the spare bedroom. I bought a new mattress and tossed the old one to the curb. I never answered Lisa's calls, but I knew she'd probably show up at the house sooner or later, so I made sure to be ready for the encounter. I picked up the kids on Friday on my way home from work and took them to a pizza place. They told me how great their time was, but they were glad to be back home. Lisa finally showed up around 8:30 that evening. The kids surrounded her, but she never took her eyes off me. By 10 o'clock, they had all gone to their rooms, and I headed to the guest room. Lisa asked if we could talk later, but I told her I wasn't in the mood. "Maybe tomorrow," I said, closing and locking the door. I heard a muffled cry as she surveyed what used to be our bedroom. I heard sounds of sheets being pulled from the bed and other noises as I imagined her trying to tidy up the room. On Saturday morning, I noticed a card, rose petals, and chocolate in the trash along with an empty wine bottle. The kids had breakfast and went about their usual Saturday activities, friends and football. I wasn't really hungry, so I just brewed some coffee. Lisa came downstairs just as I finished my first cup. I poured myself another, grabbed the newspaper, and went out onto the deck. "You know you're going to have to talk to me sooner or later," she said, looking at me with reddened eyes. "But why, Lisa? What can you say to explain what I saw on Wednesday? How long have you been cheating on me with Rick?" "It was only the second time, believe me, dear," Lisa sobbed. "Why is it so hard for me to believe you? And by the way, you've lost the privilege of calling me sweet or anything else that sounds affectionate," I spat out. "We'll coexist for the sake of the children until I figure out what's best for me and for them. It seems like you've already made your choice." At that, Lisa stormed back into the house, and I finished my coffee in anger, tearing the newspaper. The next 2 weeks at work were miserable, but at least it wasn't as bad as my home life. Someone blabbed at work, and now all I got were those pitying looks from all the women in my office every time I walked by them. My boss wanted to know if I needed personal time off, but I told him I could handle it and that I needed work to stay sane. The kids understood from the first day that something had happened and asked if they had done something wrong. "Kids, your mom and I are going through a tough time, but everything is okay. Trust me," I told them, but it wasn't true. Lisa tried to talk to me and even once tried to seduce me, but I no longer felt anything for her. I felt worse than whale shit when Cheryl walked into my office on Thursday, just before 5 o'clock. "Get your coat, we're leaving," she announced. I looked up to say something, but she stopped me. "Maybe you don't understand, this isn't a request. Grab your damn coat, we're getting out of here," she declared. When Cheryl and I arrived, two more from the fearsome trio were sitting at a table in the corner at Anthony's, Katie and Karen. After ordering drinks, Cheryl started in on me. "You need to snap out of it, Keith," she began. "For the past 2 weeks, you've been walking around like the living dead, and even though everyone's covering for you, you're neck deep in shit if you don't get your head together. I have my reasons, so why don't you just butt out?" I almost shouted back at her. "Back off, you idiot, you're not talking to Lisa," Karen replied. "What the hell do you want, Keith, or are you planning on wallowing in self-pity for the rest of your life?" "I want everything to be like it was before this shit happened," I said, staring at my glass. "Didn't you say your marriage was getting stale and you wanted to spice it up?" Katie asked. "Do you really want to go back to your boring life? Do you love her?" "I love and hate her at the same time. I want to strangle her and Rick for what they've done to me," I yelled. "I just don't know what the hell to do or where to start. Let's eat first, and then we'll figure it out," Cheryl said, waving for the waiter. "The first thing we need to do is level the playing field. Lisa is still in your house and comes back to work every day. Rick, on the other hand, goes home to his loving wife and kids. Even though he messed up your marriage," Cheryl spat. "It's time for you to reclaim your life." By the end of the evening, I felt better, and they were right. I had to do something. I couldn't let this continue. It was tearing me apart. Lisa wanted to know where I had been when I returned home. "Why do you care?" I shouted as she tearfully walked into her bedroom. The next day, I met with my lawyer, Randy. "I thought you were going to wait for the divorce," he asked. "Yes, I want to sue the company where Rick and Lisa work, and then hit Rick with a lawsuit for alienation of affection," I told him. "Listen, Keith, you don't have solid evidence, as I've told you," he replied. "I know, but they work for a public company, and with all the crap in the news lately about corporate mismanagement, I don't think they'll want bad press. Besides, even though Lisa wasn't at work, don't most managers work until 5? And don't most corporate bylaws have a clause about morals? When a married boss sleeps with a married subordinate he controls, especially during work hours?" Randy said it would take a couple of days to get everything sorted and the paperwork filed, but he would let me know when things were underway. For the next 3 days, I was the same old Keith. I joked with people at work, had fun with the kids, and even started talking to Lisa again, which made her life a bit easier. On Thursday, Randy called and said their company had been served, but I asked him to hold off on Rick's paperwork until we reach an agreement with their company. By the following Tuesday, Randy and I were already sitting in the conference room, facing the CEO and his manager. "We've reviewed the documents, and it seems you forgot to include any documents regarding the alleged incident," the manager began. Then he mentioned something about frivolous legal proceedings and was quite surprised when I stood up and headed for the door. "I guess we'll see each other in court then," I said, rising from my chair. "You know, we'll be taking statements from all the office staff," I said calmly. "How many of them do you think were aware of what was happening? All I need to do is find 1 or 2, I told them. "And how many managers do you think will defend Rick when their own backsides are on the line? Good luck, gentlemen," I said, walking out with Randy. On Wednesday, I was at my desk when Randy called. "They want to settle or, as they put it, make this mess disappear," he told me. "Well, I requested $250,000 attorney fees, and for both of them to be transferred to other departments in the state. That should cover everything," I told him. "Tell them the offer stands until noon on Thursday, and then we'll move forward." During the day, Randy called me again. "They agreed to the fees and transfers but are offering $150,000, he told me. "Randy, stop bargaining. Tell them the price is now $300,000, and if they come back with another counteroffer, the price will go up to $400,000. Maybe that will put an end to it all." On Thursday at 3:30, Randy called and said my offer was accepted and that he would deliver the documents for me to sign by 5 o'clock. True to his word, at 4:30, a package was delivered to my office. This person said they were expected, my secretary informed me. Reviewing the papers and the check attached to them, I signed the documents and handed them over. If anyone is looking for me, I've gone for the whole day, I told her as I left the office. In the car on the way home, I quickly called Randy. Handle Rick tonight and do it at his place. I was on cloud 9 with happiness. By tomorrow, I would have a weight off my shoulders and I could continue living. Alright, that's it. Grab your coat because we're going out for dinner tonight, I said as I walked in the door. Lisa looked at me and didn't move, so I continued, come on, Lisa, you too. A broad smile appeared on her face as she hurried to get her coat. During dinner, we talked and laughed like we had for the past 12 years. Life was good again, almost good. When we returned home, everyone thanked me for a great evening and went to their rooms. Lisa approached, kissed me on the cheek, and thanked me for the evening. It meant a lot to me tonight, she said. I told her that we would have a nice long talk tomorrow evening, so she needed some rest. You idiot, Lisa shouted as she entered the door. You knew last night what would happen today, didn't you? Not entirely, Lisa, but pretty close, I replied. Where's that job offer you were talking about? I asked. Tennant, New Jersey, wherever the hell that is. It seems like my services are no longer needed here, and it was either New Jersey or no job at all, she explained. I told them there was no way I'd go there, and then they handed me my severance and gave me 20 minutes to clear my desk, she sobbed. I gave them 8 years, and in 20 minutes, I was out the door, she said, sitting on a kitchen chair and sobbing. Where are they transferring your friend Rick to? I asked. Flint, Michigan, she said, staring at the floor. Underarm of the Northeast. This wouldn't have happened to a nicer guy, I said, smiling from ear to ear. Well, Lisa, here's how the next phase will go, I said, pulling my chair closer. If you want to be part of this family, here are the conditions. First of all, you need to undergo a venereal disease examination and bring me a health certificate. Then you'll undergo a polygraph test, and to help you, I'll even pre-ask all the questions, I said, passing a paper across the table. As you can see, they start off very easy but get progressively more difficult down the list. By the time she got to the last group, she started crying. Am I the biological father of my 2 children? Why did you cheat? When we were having sex in the past couple of months, who were you thinking about, Rick or me? How often have you lied to me in the past couple of months? How many affairs have you had? Do you still love me? You have a meeting tomorrow at 9, I said. And if you get through that without any surprises, we have an appointment with a marriage counselor on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Lisa just sat there crying, going through the questions. I can answer them now if you want, she said. I think I'll wait until tomorrow, I told her. I just don't trust you anymore and I want to start over, without any lies, if you don't mind. I didn't like all her answers, but she passed in my mind. Do I trust her? Damn it, no. Am I planning to stay with her? Well, the jury's still out on that, but we're working on it. The worst part is that we haven't made love in the last 5 months, and that's what I really miss. We have sex once or twice a week, you know, to relieve tension, so to speak, but it's not the same. Rick got transferred to Flint, Michigan. Last year, I sent him a Christmas card from Florida with the message, "Glad you're not here." Yeah, by the way, wife and kids are here. I guess the sunny South beat the cheating husband, go figure.
Thank you for being with us and listening until the end. If you found it interesting, please subscribe, give us a like, and leave your comments.